Welcome to Globe Watch, the program that is like a magic carpet, inviting us every week to step on it and embark on a flying trip to the whole world, choose your destination, visit a new country every time, and get to know its land and people much better. This time, we are headed towards Europe, to a country with which India has a very special relationship. We are talking of Belgium, and if they say diamonds are forever, this is a friendship which seems to be there forever and from ever. And we have in the studio to discuss Indo-Belgian relations and much more the Belgium's ambassador to India, His Excellency Jean-Marie Debouté. Welcome, Your Excellency, to the studio. But before we begin our conversation, we have a special gift for you, a visual capsule which provides glimpses of this country, beautiful, colorful, and important at the core of Europe.
Belgium has many claims to fame. Situated at the heart of Europe, is strikingly beautiful. The countryside is lush green. And one has a sense of space, refreshingly rejuvenating. The country has much to offer the tourists. It is inheritor to a rich historical legacy. Roads built by the Romans more than thousands of years ago have survived in good repair. Beautiful churches dating back to medieval period are beautifully preserved. And many small villages have a fairy tale charm. Museums in Belgium are rich repositories of art, bearing eloquent testimony to its vibrant multicultural tradition. It is amazing how the Belgians have succeeded in preserving and restoring the priceless work of art through the devastating wars that have ravaged Europe. Belgium has historic bustling ports like Antwerp and Ghent that have served as entrepots for centuries and played a most significant role in international trade. In modern times, the country has carved a niche for itself in high-grade steel production. Belgium may be small in size, but its achievements have been most impressive. It has outperformed many of the larger nations in Europe. It has consistently ranked high in competitiveness. It has a flourishing shipping industry, and the ports handle an impressive amount of container traffic. Its ultra-modern infrastructure is the envy of many. Highways and super-fast railways connect it with all the major European cities. Belgium in recent has emerged as an important commercial hub. Brussels has acquired special glamorous status as the headquarters of the European Union.
Your Excellency, I would like to begin at the beginning. Belgium, compared to other countries in Europe, the so-called historical great powers, is smaller, is lesser known, but it has had a very interesting past. It has been a major colonial presence in Africa. It is technologically very sophisticated, and in contemporary times hosts the headquarters of the European Union. And not only hosting the headquarters, the whole process of European integration seems to have been seeded, in a manner of speaking, by the Benelux Association. But there is a little confusion in the minds of people that what is Belgium like? And you read about it in history textbooks, and you read about its resistance during the war, occupation during the war, how it survived, how it has risen like a phoenix again. But the problem still remains that I would say Antwerp, Brussels, and I would be hard put to think of other places which are worth seeing. So what is the land like? What are the places like? What is the regional variation?
First of all, thank you, Professor, for inviting me, and
thank
you to Globewatch for organizing this kind of a very interesting program where you present countries, and in this case Belgium. It's a very interesting initiative to let your viewers and the public at large know more about the world, and in this case about Belgium. Yes, indeed, we are a small country in Europe. But we are a country which is very, very open and which is at the heart of Europe. And I think that's the most important element if you look at what is this country like. We are at the heart of Europe, and that made us for quite some time indeed also the battleground of foreign countries, of our forceful neighbors. And that's why after the Second World War, we immediately, when we started rebuilding the country, we immediately took the initiative of being at the core of international organizations that were shaped. You mentioned yourself the Benelux, you mentioned the European Union, you did not mention NATO, but we were there as well, present at the creation. United Nations, yes, we were there as well. That means that we had understood that for a small country, the way ahead was cooperation first with its immediate neighbors, then with Europe, with the Western world, and with the world at large. So we have been trying to be at the center where decisions were made. We wanted to be there as well, because when your interests are at stake, it's better that you're there yourself. So that was the major element in our looking ahead immediately after the Second World War. And yes, we have our history, our historical relations with Africa, with other continents, also because Belgium was one of the first countries on the continent, on the European continent, to go through the Industrial Revolution. We expanded very much towards other countries. It is no secret that, for instance, even in China, the railways have been built to a large extent by original Belgian companies. And that made us a country that was open to the world and trying to work together with the world, but not just in industrial products, not just in economical or financial terms, also in cultural terms. We had missionaries who were trying to work in China, but also in India, for instance. We had groups of religious people who came here not to try to convert the people living there, but to try to work together with them in order to help them with development. And that kind of openness, I think, is the most remarkable feature of our country.
Your Excellency, one more thing I want to clarify before we go on to more interesting, more complex issues. Belgium is also described as a federal monarchy. Now, it's a democracy, it's an open society, and is a constitutional monarchy. But how does the federation work out there? Because India is a federal polity, but India is a federal polity of a very special kind with a very strong center, and some people would say it is not even a federation, a genuine federation at all. But our constitution makes us a federation. We have a concurrent list, we have a separation of powers, and I think a federation is extremely well suited to a multicultural, multi-ethnic society. And in your country's history also there have been tensions because of Flanders and Walloons and Flemish and so on. And somehow or other the violent strife has been contained, and it has been possible to accommodate after a period of stress and strains in the polity. We also try to do that all the time, sometimes successfully, sometimes with partial success, sometimes with depressing failure. So how does this federal polity work in Belgium?
That's a very interesting question, but also a very difficult question. How does it work? We think that indeed the federal system is the best suited for most countries, because practically everywhere you have some kind of differences and some kind of social, cultural, economic differences. And in order to smooth that out, the federal system is the best suited for it. Also because the federal system is very close to the citizen, and that's what, after all, what democracy is all about. It's to be close to the citizen. Now in our case we started from a unitarian state, and we got our devolution later on, and that was and it's still moving on. It's not finished. It's something that is moving, because things are changing all of the time. Now how did we do that? We set out to have criteria, but if you have two major components in a federation, it's very difficult, because one will balance the other all of the time. So we had criteria established, and we had on the one end the criterion economic elements more bound to the territory, and at the other end we had the more cultural elements. And these two criteria we put together, and then we had the communities. We have three communities: the Flemish community, the French-speaking community, and the German-speaking community, because in Belgium there is also a German minority, minute one, but 70,000 people only, but they need their rights as well as a minority. And at the other end we had then the more economic, the regional aspect, and there we have again the Flemish region, we have the Walloon region, and we have the region of Brussels, because in Brussels the two meet. And these two criteria created communities and regions. They together form the federal state of Belgium. Now there are differences, of course, because some part of the country, the northern part of the country, is at this stage maybe economically progressing better than the southern part, which was previously up to the 60s, one could say, of the previous century, doing very well. But then, because of the change in the economic tendency, steel and coal was the hardcore of the economy over there, and that kind of industry is not suited for European circumstances anymore. So they have some problems in getting ahead, but because of the solidarity between the two parts of the country, this is working out very well. And then on the cultural field, each of them have their own language and can develop in their own way their own educational system, their own cultural policy. And yes, it is working between the two major groups, and then the German-speaking part also, very well in this respect. But on the federal level, we remain, of course, the state of Belgium, with one foreign policy, with one army, with one system of justice, with one also tax system, unfortunately, we would say, but it's there. And things are working out rather well, yes.
You did mention multiple languages. Where does English fit into this? Because one of the reasons why there is a little lack of awareness in India and countries like India about Europe is that we have been part of the Anglophone world. America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, United Kingdom, of course, seem more familiar to us. France and Germany at one step removed. But other countries we tend to sort of know a little less about. I believe that besides these plurality of languages, English is spoken widely in Belgium, and there is no language barrier for a person, say for instance, coming from the subcontinent?
Indeed, I think that for a very large group of people, the English language is the second or the third language, because yes, quite a few people in Flanders speak French. I think 80% of them master the French language and have English as a third language, or even some speak better English than French. That's something that's happening as well. The same thing is going on in the French-speaking part of the country, in Wallonia, and there also people tend to speak, besides Dutch, also English, and English very well. And I did not up to now hear many foreigners who have been to Belgium, be it in the north of the or the south, who with English could not find their way. I think they do very well, yes.
It's time for a break, so I must excuse myself for a short while. We'll resume the conversation about economy of Belgium right after this. Time for a break. Stay with us. When we resume after the break, we shall take up the state of the economy in Belgium and in India, and what prospects are there for both of us.
Yes, indeed, we still have very good or very intensive, not always very good, but very intensive relations with our former colonies. It is there indeed in the language, although one notices more and more also in Africa, in former French-speaking Africa, that English is also making important inroads in those countries.